Put these things here and get us into it and say, greetings, everybody! Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It is, of course, March 15th. We're right in the middle of the month. Hey. Halfway through March.
We're just past Pi Day. That was yesterday.
It's true. I ended up not celebrating Pi Day, but I also always forget it's Pi Day because I'm not a big pie person. So I barely
There's
remember.
also the Ides of March currently.
Oh.
Yes.
Where then? The knight's in the back. Unfortunately, I have no one behind me for now.
Only if your name is Julius.
You're not a senator, so or an emperor, so you're fine. Your friends aren't senators.
Wait a second! My title here is Emperor! Crap! Anyway, we do have some interesting topics to talk about today, and some ones that are a topic, but they probably should be brought up. You know, I think I keep trying to express this in the best way. I don't hate Universes Beyond from Magic. I just
do.
think I just
For the most part.
I think it's, for the most part, I kind of hate the way they do it. Because I think the core concept, things like the Final Fantasy set, the Lord of the Rings set, these things I think fit very well with the kind of general themes and mechanics of the way that Magic works, and I think work well. Even like something like Avatar, I feel like could work in it. Warhammer could work in it. You know, then we get this SpongeBob.
All those things you said have in common,
This is
they're fantasy related for the most part.
Hey, it's almost as if Magic is a fantasy-based thing, even when they have very sci-fi elements. They're sci-fantasy.
I'm not the kind of person who would be I'm a big fan of, you can play any card you want. I'll finish out the game with you, but I really do think if I would see someone have SpongeBob SquarePants as their commander, I might leave the table. That might be too much for me.
At least it's basically a brain thing for a second.
Copy.
It's just a reskin for for SpongeBob, but it's so weird because it's a 5-color legendary.
It's because it's the rainbow meme.
I think this is the problem I have with it. They are not only having this, they are going deep into the meme of everything.
They're memes. They're literal they've chosen the SpongeBob memes.
They've chosen the memes. Yeah, I was actually gonna point that out.
It makes it so much more insulting.
Yeah, Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It's just kind of like, why pick the memes? Like you could kind of do things that kind of showcase the SpongeBob SquarePants as like a thing, but instead they picked the meme images that would be recognized by people.
It's the thing that I harken back to the original kind of the thing of this of The Walking Dead. I didn't like it then. They were mechanically unique, which was very bad. I didn't like them all. But at very least, they felt Walking Dead-y, and they did them in a way that does kind of fit within magical mechanics. Yes, this is in a case where we are using reskins, which is a little better, I think, too. But then when you're embracing, we're doing the reskin, but we're doing the meme, it's like, why bother? You're just doing this for... this feels very it's the Fort notification. I didn't say that.
It literally is. Magic is becoming the Fortnite of trading cards.
Yeah. No, okay, you know what? I've kind of had a little think about that before, and yeah, I'm glad someone said it. I hadn't remembered to say something like that on the stream, but that is totally...
Just I get it. You want to make your shareholders happy. You want to make all that money. SpongeBob meme cards they're not the way to do that. And I hate that these will sell, genuinely. I hate that people will buy these.
They will, again, because they've got the limited run of them, they will sell out. There will be just enough people to buy the product line that they have, and that'll be it. Probably. you know, and certainly speaking, there are enough probably SpongeBob fans that might also spend extra money to make up for the Magic fans. Because again, I feel like they're trying to move away from the game and attract more like.
Yeah, it's to attract people.
It's sort of like when we talk about something like the Pokemon trading card game. There is a game there, but a lot of times there's a lot of hype
it's
around
the collector value, mostly
the collector
for
side
Pokemon.
Yeah, Magic has always been both. They're almost trying to like move away from the game part of it and just go the collector part of it. I feel like
because it's hard to say because I'm very much in a community currently being directly affected by the collector's aspect of Magic, the Final Fantasy community. It's really rough right now because a lot of people who don't know Magic are now being introduced to here's these cards and also they look cool and they have your favorite character on them. So it's going to be really hard because much like the Warhammer ones, it's going to be really hard to get sets in boxes now.
What? Yeah, there was. I mean, that happened with like the Lord of the Rings one too, right? Where it's all like...
they're pushing into this is a known IP territory for
people
collecting.
Are already very fanatic.
Yeah,
I think the thing is, and I didn't necessarily think about addressing this in today's show because I posted in my Discord the video that the professor did, which did a very from Fleury College, community college. Did a very good job of talking about the increased price points around Universes Beyond, at least the core sets, and how they are, in fact, raising the price of Magic overall. Because they are standard legal! And Final Fantasy has some ridiculous prices I've been looking at, and I'm like...
Absolutely.
Again, this is one of those points in time where I'm like, I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. I thought this thematically fit kind of as a good Universes Beyond. Like Lord of the Rings, I didn't mind it. I didn't buy it at the time, because I didn't get a lot of cards that year. I think I got like one set. But it was one that I was like, this is the kind of thing I don't mind. I would collect it. I wanted to get a box of Final Fantasy. It might be priced out of my range. Just barely.
Will be.
Because again, the base price is already going to be more expensive. On top of everything. Yeah. And this is going to go for all the Universes Beyond. It's a price point hike in Magic that is secret, you know? Or it's not technically secret, it's like right in front of you, but it's like they don't mention it. But it's because, hey, these are legal in all the main things you're going to be playing.
So like, just to put this in perspective, the Commander decks for Final Fantasy are not out yet. You cannot get them. On eBay, they're already having their people who have bought pre-orders are selling their pre-orders for hundreds of dollars.
They also have like collector versions of them, which are even more expensive. It's sort of like it feels so. This feels the most dirty of a lot of the price points, like and like selling stuff. Yeah. Like I've hated collector boosters, like the expensive ones, since they introduced them. I mean, I really wanted to get the 14 Commander deck, but what I'm probably going to do instead is just buy all of the Scion cards in singles, because it'll end up being cheaper. Yeah, just you get the cards that are unique to that set, or that deck.
I'll just buy all of the 14 characters.
And then all the other cards, because you can look up the sets online, you could just build it yourself for probably cheaper versions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Buy in bulk.
It sucks, man.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is that, and like, by constantly putting out these premium sets that are more expensive, it's driving, I mean, you're kind of right, it's driving up the price of these cards.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, well, this is the only way to get this card, and this is now the standard price, so people will buy it for more because it's clear that they're buying it from this place for more.
And yes, for your universes within the actual like normal Magic sets, those prices haven't raised. But again, it hits down to that we're selling now premium sets that are part of most of the formats you're going to play. And so if there's even if there's like 5 cards that tend to hit into one of those formats, hey, now you want to buy those cards in that format.
Just because I was legitimately curious, I did look up, because people are already selling singles from the set and commander deck, because you know what's in the commander deck, so you can pre-order those essentially.
Yeah.
The commanders are already listed at their starting price of $50 and upwards to $100 for a single. Because this is what happens when you do pre-orders like this. Is people are gonna buy them and see, because like it's Final Fantasy, that's a huge market. Scalpers gonna be like, well, I'm gonna pre-order a bunch of these and just sell them for more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the other thing is, wait a couple of months and you can probably buy these for a month.
Yes, if you just wait like 2 months, the market will fall out on it. Stores will get more versions of the boxes and stuff. 'Cause it's a core set, so it's not like the Fallout or Warhammer Commander sets, which are kind of one-off things. This is a core set.
Yep.
Yeah. It's legitimately, a thing in business called artificial scarcity, where you literally make something scarce on purpose by just limiting your production of it to drive up demand, supply and demand.
I think
so you make limited supply to make demand higher.
Yeah. At very least, in this case, that's what they've been doing with the secret layers. I'm going back to SpongeBob there. But at least in this case, yes, it's going to be more expensive, but you can probably at least still, like, I forget who I was talking to. Anyway, I heard someone I was talking to was able to order a box for like $150. Is that a great price? Maybe for Final Fantasy boxes are a great price. It's not a great price for Magic. Magic, I would say, like, you want to aim for, like, your average Magic set now for, like, $120. So it's still $30 more expensive for a box. And also, it's technically less packs, too, because you have 30 packs. So it's even more expensive.
It's just like... I am someone who often nowadays, especially nowadays, use Magic from, like, the outside in. Because I don't play as often, and I've honestly been priced out, even though I have a decent job. And this doesn't make me want to really ever come back. When they do SpongeBob cards, while also never addressing the fact that they have a huge problem with scalpers that is strangling the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They've let
Which is honestly because of their artificial scarcity.
Yep.
I mean, that's why scalpers work, is when there is artificial scarcity, it is a lot easier to scalp.
The secondary market is getting out of control and is causing problems. This is what happened with the last time that Magic crashed. It was a combination of factors, but one of them was the secondary market got out of control. I remember the prices that were pre and before post-crash of Magic. Magic's market bottomed out. It can happen again. It's not as easy now. And again, like, going back to the SpongeBob ones, I think we talked about the meme-worthy one. There are technically 3 secret layers. We've only seen the meme one because that's one of the big ones. But it's also lands, which are just, like, their lands. And also, technically, the core characters, which you can argue, like, that's probably the least offensive out of these. But I think having the meme one as one of them, even if you're doing 3 of these secret layers, is insulting enough to have one of them dedicated. One of them dedicated to lands. Basic lands.
I mean, you complain about lands. I don't mind them. I think the idea of lands based on... I mean, I wouldn't want them based on SpongeBob, but...
Like, if you want to have SpongeBob land, I feel like that's fine.
Yeah.
For me, it's... Let's not have 5 lands. Let's have, like, 25 lands. That's what I kind of want, because lands are dirt cheap.
If it was a land pack you could buy, I think I'd be better with it.
I agree with that, too. 100%.
that's been my kind of thing, is they keep putting out this, it's one of each of these lands, which you can't play with that. You know, you can have one of your lands in your deck be that. But when your average, like if you're doing like standard, modern, or any of those kind of, a lot of those other ones, you're going to have 20 lands. If you're doing commander, you're going to have like around 33 lands. Usually about a third of your deck is lands. And if you have one of them, your really cool land you want, doesn't do a lot. 5 is a little bit. Anyway,
No, I agree that the minimum amount is, or like the fact that they give you like one of each means that if you want to have like a deck of all of these lands, you'd have to buy like 5 packs.
Yep.
So, anyway, there's some updates on Magic and SpongeBob, and yes, we should move on because I want to have some nicer things to talk about. We can talk about Star Trek. That's nicer. So we have this here. We're getting a new product for second edition, the technical manual. And so this was kind of neat because it's Star Trek technologies. As much as they're probably not explaining a lot of things because there's a lot of technobabble in here, at very least, it is a technological system and world, so having a book that kind of gives you a bunch of wealth of scientific gear and equipment and stuff like that is kind of cool. I think that's actually something I was thinking about when I saw this here. I don't think I had a lot of books that gave a lot of that first issue. Did they have any?
I think I had one.
Yeah. I can't remember though, because I think by the time I got a bunch of the TS, I didn't get one any of the technical manual. It might have been after me,
So here's the thing that actually, like you say, there's going to be a lot of technobabble. No, there actually won't be, because...
Well, I mean, they're probably not going to get into the depths of how the technology works. It's more just showing off the technology you use. That's what I mean.
Yeah, it's more of a technology showcase.
Yes.
And like how the technology supposedly works. But even, I was going to honestly just go in to say it's all like, but in reality, most of Star Trek, like, I'd probably say 90% of it is totally feasible in theory.
Yeah.
I
think that is the good thing about Star Trek in a lot of ways. They do kind of hit upon that, like, could be feasible kind of things in a lot of ways.
Well, no, they actually really do try to, do things that are kind of more theoretical.
I mean, it's technically like a soft sci-fi series, but they do actually, like, warp travel in Star Trek is based off a real theory.
Mm-hmm.
The math at least works for it.
cool.
We have no real way of testing it. At present technology, at least.
Yes. There are people that work on actual, like, warp stuff, because there is, like, a scientific theory that kind of, again, it's not something we can actually test, but there is science behind the technology they use.
Yeah, I mean, and the math, for the most part, works.
Yeah, because, I mean, the warp drive is based off the Alcubierre drive.
Thank you.
Which is...
I would not have remembered that name at all. I just remembered it was a thing.
A more commonly referenced form of FTL in sci-fi as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you really want to know, we actually have the theoretical way to, like, make a warp drive. The problem is we just have no theoretical way to speed up a warp drive.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's at this weird point in time that there's probably, like, a level of physics or understanding that we would have
do you
to
think
use.
you think this book will have Elon Musk in it like Discovery did?
Was he in that?
Yes, they name dropped him in I think it was Discovery. They name dropped him alongside the guy who invented warp travel.
Oh wow.
It was a choice.
Yeah, that's a choice.
I mean, it was backdoor Discovery and things were different.
Elon Musk has gone way more off the deep end.
It was back before he went on stage and did certain gestures and various other things. Anyways, I imagine this book will have, here's what device does, here's lore snippet of device.
Yeah.
I imagine that's more what it'll be.
Yeah, it does look like it's a good chunk of things.
Could I tell you what half the tech in Star Trek does? God, no. I have not watched a Star Trek show in 10 years. I don't even remember what the hell a tricorder does.
Magic. I'm not gonna lie.
Basically.
The tricorder is kind of this weird device that it's supposed to do like a specific thing, but when they use it, it just sort of does
Star Trek
everything.
Sonic Screwdriver. It
Yeah,
can just do whatever the hell it needs to do.
Yeah, there's definitely a big part of that. Although I think there is an explanation that's like just the super sensitive sensor on all wavelengths, chemical, well, like that's why it can do so much. But then they also use it to like, you know, set up a beam to create a deflection field.
Like...
So that's when it's like, yeah, it's the sonic screwdriver.
Now. Half the time, that's also the phaser. So they have a phaser and a tricorder, use them together,
true.
and then they have both of them together, and that's their true sonic screwdriver. But they also take that, Doctor Who.
I feel like Doctor Who at one point carried a gun in one of the series or something.
Third, he was like the super spy. He might have had a gun.
There was one that just fought the Soviets half the time.
That might have been the third Doctor, like the one that was really in color. I just remember, I think that guy was on Earth and like doing spy stuff or something. That was weird. Look, Doctor Who's, if you want to look up the history of Doctor Who, it's very fascinating. It's weird. There's so many shows.
There's a lot of episodes that are just not watchable anymore because they're gone from existence.
Yeah, especially those first couple of Doctors. Those are really kind of missing. Anyway, so, you know, I think the technical manual is very good. I'm glad they're getting it out relatively early. If they did have one in first edition, that was like in the later side. Yeah, this is the kind of...
Okay, we're talking about the tricorder. I need to say this. And that's literally one of the example pages here. And it actually says the tricorder has 235 sensors which can detect different types of signals. Some sensors are focused in one direction for precise measurements, while others can scan the entire area around the tricorder. There's also a handheld sensor for detailed readings. So the idea is just that it's a bajillion sensors.
Me, when I don't want to call my science device just magic.
It really kind of is. It's just like... It's magic. It's got a billion sensors. Don't worry about it. It will do the thing you want it to do.
We're never truly going to explain how it works.
I was fairly certain that was the idea, is it was just a bunch of like super tiny sensors that can't sense like a bajillion different things.
It's kind of ridiculous. I do like they show the original series.
It is, yeah, it is nice. It's the OG.
So, you know, if you, I think it's coming soon physically.
$46 for the physical book.
You probably can get PDF with them.
Oh, most certainly.
So, if you want to get the PDF, keep it on authorized. I don't know if they have, they might have the pre-orders for the physical book first, and then later on PDF.
That ships in June.
I love this. They're complicated. They have a complications section for the device, and it's just like, this is where the Technobabble comes into play. I love this. Isodyne relay misinterpreting sensor data. Scanner head circuit slagged. Jamming signals. Can't figure out what's wrong with this thing.
Universal translator software have become corrupted, and displays are showing text in Ancient Vulcan. Damn it! Who knows Ancient Vulcan?
Big fan of 19 to 20's tricorder complication. Tricorder becomes sentient and stubborn.
Yep, I was about to say that. I was just reading it. I love this. One. This is good.
Oh my god. Your tricorder becomes sentient and stubborn. God damn it, tricorder.
Mr. Tricorder.
That's Mr. Tricorder to you. Oh, alright.
Okay, sorry, I just had to shout that out, because that was... I love the Technobabble complications, that's great.
Good old Technobabble.
It comes in. So, hey, we're getting 2 Lord of the Rings starter sets for the 2 Lord of the Rings RPGs done by Freely. So again, if you don't know, they do one that's compatible with 5e, and then they do the one on their own system, so it's the One Ring and the 5e ones. Anyway, it's the same starter set, just for different systems. It's taking place in the lands of Eriador, which I had to look up. That's the area where, like, the Shire is and stuff.
I didn't know it was called that. I've read these books.
Yeah, the Shire might technically be out of it, but it's, like, where, like, what's the town they went to?
Bree.
Bree. So that's where, like, this is the land where Bree is and stuff like this. So this is, like, the far area off from where a lot of shit happens in Lord of the Rings. So it's interesting that we're getting the starter... I guess it makes sense to be the starter set there, because there's still stuff that happens there. I think, like, I guess this is where, in the original Hobbit, there would have been kind of trolls in this area.
Armandale, Moria... I mean, there's Bree.
Mm-hmm.
I could not tell you where the Shire is on this map.
It's in the middle.
There it is, yeah.
Of
So,
Erebor.
okay.
Again, like, this region, it kind of makes sense to have it kind of part of the starter, because this feels like this is where a lot of adventures would start, you know?
Yeah, this is where, for the most part, the start of Lord of the Rings is.
Yeah. So, and technically the Hobbit, too, so... But I guess we're more, you know, epic fantasy rather than just a little fantasy here. I guess the Hobbit kind of goes epic, if I drag. Not as much as Lord of the Rings.
The dragon attacks. They don't really fight it.
They get some random dude.
A dude
shoot
named
it with an
Bard
arrow.
shoots it with the dragon slaying arrow in the plot part of its body.
I just find it interesting that they did pick Eredor, which is basically like a good third of the map. You know, you could have gotten a little bit smaller.
I think it's that thing is it's a region that's like probably not as much talked about because like stuff happens here in the Lord of the Rings world, but there's like either like big mountains in the way, so like a lot of what's happening is on the other side.
Yeah, I feel like most people know the stuff that happens in Rohan and in Gondor more than anything.
There's like big mountains in the way. It's the reason they had to go through Moria was big mountains in the way, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's interesting. The Overhill and Underhill. I think are they both called that, or just the one called? I think they're both called that. So, apparently, the one for the One Ring comes with a full-colored map of the area and standees for heroes. And some
Big
dice.
sets.
And the 5e one comes with 2 d20s, one with the Rune of Gandalf, and the other with the Eye of Sauron. You can have an evil-looking...
Get your evil
D20.
die.
Yeah. So... anyway, those will be coming up soon, 25 July for release days, 25 each. And they are going to be starter sets for the two of them. So, cool. If you want to get into Lord of the Rings role-playing, either use the Free League's custom one, or if you just want to do something that's 5e related, you can do it.
Yep.
Alright. So, Helldivers 2 is getting a board game.
I love democracy.
I always thought about getting into Democracy, but then it
It's
kind of
a good
got
game.
messed up with a lot of, I probably could still get people.
It's better now.
Yeah. I
You
probably
don't
still could.
you don't need a PSN account anymore.
But Steamforged, who I think we've talked about a few times over the last couple of months.
They are
They rings a bell.
They are the ones who make all the video game board games at this point.
Kind of are. So it looks like it'll probably be like, I'm guessing another kind of miniatures one where you're taking on missions. And
Most likely.
So,
Yeah. I mean, literally one of the pictures is a miniature of one of the insect ones.
See if there's a game found page for it. Oh, the game found page is not up. Oh, okay, here it is.
Trying to find.
It has a bigger picture of the box on the game found link.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably will be like I assume like a point control kind of game where you do various missions and whatnot. I
Yeah.
feel like Helldivers works more for a board game than several other board games based on video games that have happened. Like Horizon Zero Dawn has one for some reason.
Yeah, I think I can agree on that one. I think there definitely will be some stuff that's kind of lost in the way. Because I feel like when you play the game, there are certain aspects of it that are kind of a little insane and like very video gamey.
It's very clearly a satire.
Yeah.
Some people couldn't tell that apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Helldivers.
It was very reminded of
It's
Starship
very
Troopers.
Starship Troopers.
Yes.
It's
Yeah, I mean, they literally even had Starship Troopers like people do a thing for that. Like they totally collab with them or
it's
whatever.
very it's as close as we'll ever get to like a 40k guard game. I mean, that
Yeah.
makes me a little bit sad, but hey, it's there.
Yeah.
So board game could be quite fun.
Yeah, like even if it's not connecting to like the video game aspects of Helldivers 2, I think because of the setting and stuff, these type of games are still fun on their own. They kind of like a squad attack thing, and maybe there will be like some kind of like a respawn mechanic you kind of have too. So like maybe your little miniatures will be squishy, and you'll have to sacrifice a bunch of them and have a limited number of like extra character people you can send in. There are poly mechanics like that exist in other miniature-based games, so I feel like they could probably do it here. A little bit Super Earth, woo!
for Super Earth and was it Managed Democracy?
Managed Democracy. God. Yeah. Maybe I should. One of these days, maybe I should actually get that game.
It's quite good. I think it's like on sale currently.
Ooh.
I do want to reinstall it and play it again.
It's one of those ones that definitely like I think I would want to play with people.
You need people. You need like 3 people to play it at least.
Yeah.
It's not a very fun solo game.
It is 20% off right now.
That's a pretty good price, I think.
All right. So, Helldivers 2, getting its board game there. If you're interested in checking it out, it will be out in, I have the date and close that tab.
I'm actually going to reinstall it now.
We'll see some April 8th for the game.
Pretty cool.
Less than half a month away.
God, I really did put 80 hours into this game when it came out.
So we got some more crowdfunding stuff to talk about before we kind of move on to our Warhammer at the end here today. We can start with who's getting so we had a board game based on Frostpunk. We're now getting an RPG based on Frostpunk.
RPG feels depressing. Frostpunk is not a happy game.
Yeah. Frostpunk's about surviving in like a snowpocalypse. Around
it's
Britain.
not fun. It's super depressing half the time because your choices are, do I let the children starve or do I make their food 90% sawdust so they live?
Do we all die by like basically me taking care of the children, or do I send them to the mines to work in order for us all to survive?
Yeah, this doesn't feel like a happy RPG.
Look, there are other depressing RPGs, I'm not gonna lie. But this is definitely one that when I saw it, I'm like, this is interesting, because I'm like, it could work, but it also, I don't know. I can see, like...
what are you this, I guess?
I assume you'd probably, because they send people out to, like, scout for resources and stuff. I never played the first game, but I do remember watching someone's playthrough. And, like, you got to that point in time where you send them out, like, scouting parties for materials out farther outside.
Yeah, you send, like, scouts to find things, people, quests, materials, to bring them to build and power the... I guess, yeah, if you're playing, like, a scout.
Yeah.
Or someone doing a job in the city.
And maybe, like, there is mechanics that, like, how successful you are might help your city, like, build up and stuff like that.
I mean, I could see an interesting one where the GM makes you kind of, like, the political heads.
Make horrible decisions? That could possibly be true.
Make everyone hate you for making the hard decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a fun game.
We're officially eating the dead now. Eating the dead. We need extra food.
It's true.
Grandma, she's passed away. She's delicious.
I mean, like, look, get in the mine, you're gonna freeze to death, you idiots.
I just thought about it. Don't they gotta go north in Frostpunk? Can't you go south?
I genuinely don't know the lore of Frostpunk. I think The volcano exploded, and that's why it happened.
Yeah. It's the Great Frost.
Yeah, I'm actually
At least
gonna
they say on
Google
the
it
thing.
because I think they.
Alternate history set in the late 19th century in which they must build to maintain a city during a worldwide volcanic winter.
Yeah, a bunch
Yeah.
of volcanoes went exploding.
Okay.
So presumably that's why they can't go south. Also, you're on Great Britain. Where the fuck are you gonna go?
Everything's like frozen
Where are you
across the
gonna go?
water. They go like north. I don't. It's interesting idea in a lot of ways. There's probably some areas that are fine. But you're the people living in poor Great Britain. So you're really like terrible.
Your life already kind of sucked when you were living in 1800s Britain.
They do literally say millions fled south. They only met destruction, famine, and death.
Apparently.
Apparently surviving the fridge is better than going south where it's at least warmish? I don't know.
Quite like the first game. I've never played the second game.
It's an interesting setting for it. And, like, again, being something like the Scouts, I see that as a very easy one. Yeah, maybe being, like, political leaders and stuff like that. But then again, it's like... It isn't impossible, but it's difficult to, like... I do think there's a level of challenge in managing that, world, the like, city management. Not impossible. I'm curious as to what direction they can take. Well, maybe see. Maybe we'll revisit it even more.
Yeah, it looks like he uses everything but a D20.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the idea of this plot is that the eruption of Krakatoa was like way worse or something, and other it says the eruptions of Krakatoa and other unknown events triggered volcanic winter, which led to widespread failure. And like the British Empire built giant generators on top of coal mines to help keep things
perfect
warm.
sense. Makes perfect sense.
Makes perfect sense.
It's one of those settings where you don't think about it too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. So, yeah. Next, we do have some more Kickstarter. And we're going to talk about...
I love Kickstarter.
This one that's kind of a little interesting. I think the name caught me up. It's a gothic romance mystery called Until Death Do Us Part, and it's made for 5e, 5.5.
I know so many people who would like this.
And it is... I think it's just like, you know... romance with a vampire, Bram Stoker inspired. You know, it's dealing with.
Hey,
like,
I mean, it's relevant. Nosferatu just came out.
Mm-hmm. So, I just look. You know, I don't know how good this really is, but it's just something interesting. And it is funded. It's only got 20 hours left now. At the time of this, I'm sorry, I didn't switch at this time. So I mean, like, running
80 pages. It's a level 5 adventure.
Mm-hmm. You're invited to Whitecliff Castle. There's vampires, werewolves, forbidden love, silver daggers.
I mean, to me, this goes up there with the that one. I forget what the book is called, but D&D Shorts did the video on like the Kink D&D book a couple weeks ago.
Ooh.
This kind of goes up with me like that, where I would purchase it for the curiosity and to read it, like how they've done it.
Yeah.
I do find it interesting that they also have like scalable encounter rules, so you could play it for. It's designed for 5, but they have rules for scaling it to different levels. So it's like if that would be more appropriate for your team, if you want to put it in there. Man, apparently this is like a type of book these people have had. Before the Stroke of Midnight, An Unexpected Wedding Invitation, The Mystery of Cursed Statue, and many other adventures these people have done. They have a type of adventure they like writing.
Hey, write what you're good at.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is, they're all supposed to be like mysteries, so...
I think that's also the thing that kind of attracted me to it, because, like, a good mystery in RPG is very fun, but it's not always the easiest to pull off. So
honestly, I'm probably gonna buy it just to kind of see what they do with those things. Because, like, let's be real, I just like to see the I just like to see what people do with those. because mysteries are hard, and everyone kind of runs them differently. I'm kind of curious to see how those mechanics work, or how they stitch it together.
Which system is the free VTT pack for? They do advertise that as hard.
I assume for 5e and 5.5e.
So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, being a free VTT pack, what VTT is it for?
Because probably Roll20.
Probably Roll20. Yeah, that makes sense. Again, that's probably the most logical, but I was curious.
Or it's probably stuff you can up, like they give you, here's like all the tokens and stuff, and you can just upload them to your VTT choice.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. You could do that if they have all like the material for it.
Yeah,
tokens, maps, and digital handouts.
Free VTT pack with tokens, maps, and digital handouts.
That makes me think it's just a zip file with a bunch of pre-made assets you could upload.
Yeah. That would probably be pretty easy to put in most VTT things, so that makes sense. They do have some more of their adventures as add-ons you can put here towards the bottom. Let's see here. Which they have... Wow. They have a romantic mystery inspired by Jane Austen. A gothic mystery inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. So they're basically doing stories and adventures that are based around, like, versions. Because this is Bram Stoker. So they've done Poe, Christie, because they mention it's based around, like, adventures for, like, Sherlock Holmes. Who's the writer for that one? Arthur Conan Doyle?
I believe so.
And then Lovecraft.
So I quite like this, that they have the, like, a lower income tier, which gets you about, like, the same stuff as the normal tier, but they simply say this is also an option for, like, first responders and stuff, because they want to support those people better. I like when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. So, yep. If you're interested in it, and you can go check it out, the support is still open at the time you did this show. If not, keep an eye on them. You can probably link to their stuff, since apparently they've done a bunch of these adventures, so...
Yeah, so they definitely sell more of them outside of this, so you can always go to those.
Midnight Towers, the group that works in. Again, it looks like they do a very interesting thing, that they take a lot of, like popular literature style and make mystery adventures in 5e/5.5 for them. That's kind of cool. Right. Right, we got a couple more topics today, and the next one up is another to-be coming soon RPG, and that's Obelisk. It's got a kind of, I like the name. It does have a name. It's got its little, like, logo there. It's a horror role-playing fantasy game. Yay!
Nice.
I think it feels like they're going very much more insanity Lovecraftian horror. It feels like they're mentioning that that's the direction they're going.
Makes sense. Eldritch monsters.
Eldritch monsters tend to be very easy. Well, I wouldn't say easy horror. There are things that definitely are easier to make into horror, especially in RPGs, I think, because they're a little bit more that more unknown insanity of losing yourself. So, let's see.
It's all about that fear of the unknown.
I mean, I feel like they could do a lot with a simple system. I mean, honestly, the biggest thing about horror systems and why, things like D&D don't necessarily make great horror systems is because you really do need some kind of, like, way to track a decline of the players.
Yeah, you gotta design your whole system around horror. When 5e does have horror rules, they're just not very good.
I mean, it's kind of just a tack-on that basically doesn't do anything. I mean, you could probably, like, homebrew them into being more robust. But...
so, they do have a document with the basic rules that you can get in Google Drive that they link here. So they're not really keeping the rules away, but it's very simple rules. They're doing a D6 pool where you roll up to 8 6-sided dice. 5 classes. They've got a bestiary, a bunch of spells, rituals, game master sections, the setting that they're using of 6 various nations, and a extensive underground civilization. So again, like, there's a lot to this entire thing. It's a big setting and stuff, but it's kind of cool that they are just providing some of the basic rules here on this. I'm going to grab these just to see the basic rules and character sheets. You do like the Google Drive. It's neat. Oh, I didn't even notice their Cameron Tressler and their area is close by to me. It's out of Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I didn't notice that until just now. I thought they were kind of interesting to talk about.
Hell yeah.
Hi, I can drive to Allentown. I'm in Eastern Pennsylvania. That's neat. So, if you're interested in it, you can keep an eye on it. It's going to be launching soon on Kickstarter. I don't know if I saw the date earlier. There's an article here. Time for been released. So I'm unsure. You'll have to just keep an eye on it. It'll be interesting to check out. Okay, one final main topic today, and of course, it's an interesting one because it is Space Marine 3.
Yeah, this is a wild announcement because Space Marine 2 came out in September of last year. It's pretty soon to just be like, yeah, we're doing the third game at some point.
So here's the big thing I'm going to say first off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this going to be maybe years away? Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Is it going to be as many as it was between Space Marine 1 and 2? Probably not, because
I certainly hope not.
What they might do is they might use things like they have an engine and a lot of assets that they could use already.
Because Space Marine 1... Sorry, I'm gonna hear my phone restart. I apologize. It's very loud.
Mm-hmm.
Space Marine 1 came out in 2009 or 2011. Yeah. So it was 13 years between these two games. I certainly hope it doesn't take as long because they have everything they need for like a horde game already with the Swarm engine.
Yeah, it's like they have an engine. They have a lot of assets already in the engine. Yes, you can make more, but again, like it's that kind of thing is when you have an engine and you have some assets, you can build off of it. So they've got some steps along the way. Is it all the way there? No. But again, like, I do agree, it's kind of interesting because it is at least a couple of years off, you know?
Yeah, what's interesting, like, to me is Space Marine 2 isn't, like, done yet, technically. Because they're still, like, in full, like, content production mode for Space Marine 2. So my guess is they put this out to be like, hey, you're going to see us hiring for positions. This is what that's for. You don't need to speculate.
Okay. That's probably not a bad idea, too. And the thing is, like, honestly speaking, if you're working on a game, the divisions that are still finishing up Space Marine 2 can be different than those that are working on Space Marine 3. Because Space Marine 3 will have, like, you know, art, storytelling, things like that are on the stuff you have to build the what you need to like program in the game.
Because of what's coming out for Space Marine 2, because we have the roadmap for 2025. We've gotten most of this already. Because I think we just got the Raven Guard and Salamanders DLCs into the game. So I think there's one more character pack coming, and then they might actually just be like done with DLC content. So I don't really know, because at least I think the Salamanders DLC came out. Let me just double check that really fast. I think the Salamanders one has come out. The Raven Guard has not come out yet.
Okay.
I do highly recommend Space Marine 2. If you like horde shooters, it's very good at that. I hope that Space Marine 3 improves on everything narratively and is a bit of a longer game, because it definitely feels like Space Marine 2 is the kind of game that's like, we need to get this thing out like now to to coincide with 10th edition stuff being released.
Ooh.
Because 10th edition is all about Tyranids, or at least started about with Tyranid stuff. And Space Marine 2 is a Tyranid game, where you are primarily fighting Tyranids.
Also, Space Marine 2 is 35% off right
It's
now.
a good game. That's a good price for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting because they are still like working on it. That yeah, they can be doing some background work, but there's a lot of like I guess you can say the programming work that probably, unless you're hiring new people, you can't dedicate as much to Space Marine. Again, you could still work on it. There's things that there are probably people that aren't going to be needed for the remaining stuff for Space Marine 2 that could start work on Space Marine 3. You know,
like what's I also like that in the games the Warhammer community article. I don't think it's supposed to read like as sarcastic, but I do love this bit. Do you love press releases? Well, we've got a treat for you, and they link the press release. I do like that phrasing.
But, that's why so many things are on sale. It's the spring sale.
Yeah, the spring sale started like 2 days ago, I think.
Oh, spring sale! I wouldn't have even noticed. I didn't notice.
I mean, it's hard to say what I want from a Space Marine 3. I guess I just want more. Space Marine 2, well, I quite enjoyed it, left me wanting. Because it is only about I think it was about an 8-hour campaign, which is... I mean, that's standard campaign length for a third-person shooter for most types of games.
I mean, didn't they have some replayability with the multiplayer missions?
They have
like
PvP, and then they have the PvE multiplayer, which is all quite fun. They've got so much customization, though I have my thoughts on how they've done the customization, which I can say because we're talking about Space Marine. Space Marine 2 has a problem, has a DLC problem, where they left some chapters, some of the more popular chapters and legions, out of the base game to then later sell as DLC. I don't like that. What I don't like more is you buy the DLC and then you have to spend the in-game currency you earn for free on each individual cosmetic that you unlock. I don't like that more. That's upsetting.
That does feel upsetting that you spend money to be able to unlock it in the game.
I don't really care because I don't like the Raven Guard, Dark Angels, or Salamanders very much. I'm a more of a Blood Angels fan and a Space Wolves fan, but I feel like if you're gonna make someone pay money, you should just have it unlocked.
I don't know. I think it depends on the game.
To be fair, you can get currency very quick. It does not take long to get in-game currency.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is you can play as Chaos champions in PvP because it's Loyalists versus Chaos. There is no Chaos customization. You cannot customize how you look as a Chaos dude, which is to me was very disappointing because I'm a Chaos player personally. In the game I tend to gravitate towards Chaos because I think they look cooler. I think their lore is better, but I would like to see at the very least in Space Marine 3 Chaos customization.
Makes sense. So it's some interesting spots for that. Again, this is very far out, so it's kind of we're just
it's years away.
Wait and see.
At the very least we know it'll have Titus because he's Mr. Popular Boy. It'll be Ultramarines. They're popular boys.
There's a good chance since he's been the main character of the last two, he's going to be the main character of this
Most
one.
likely, he's the current new hot main character, and he's not killed his greater demon yet, so... Those unaware, it's kind of a joke that in Warhammer, if you're a named character, you get to kill any number of greater demon you desire, because they need to show how cool you are.
One of these adventures, he's got to get through it.
Genuinely, like, bloodthirsters and stuff, which are the Corn Greater Demon, are supposed to be like some of the toughest things in the galaxy, and they die like crazy anytime a named character is on screen.
Look out! It's Jim!
It's
Jim the Space Marine!
It's a named guy. He's got to get his choice of Greater Demon to kill.
He just shows up, like, with a Greater Demon in a headlock. He's like, hey, name's Jim, Space Marine.
I'm very
You're really
curious which Chaos God they'll go with, because the Space Marine games have always been like Tzeentch, which is fun, but it's a little overdone.
Yeah.
We've not gotten proper Slaanesh representation in the video games, but it's a couple of reasons why.
Yes, I was going to
look at a Slaanesh miniature, and you'll see why. Probably.
Slaanesh just, I feel like that one's
it's not a
little more
nudity.
difficult. Yeah, not impossible, but pretty challenging. I mean, it's probably already an M rating, but I guess it's like going to stick to the M rating, and that might be too much.
Slaanesh is like the harder one to do. Tzeentch is easy. Khorne is the easiest because they're just angry demons.
Angry murder people.
I feel like they can't do Nurgle because Nurgles come up way too much in the video games.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Nurgle also more mindfuckery too?
No, that's Tzeentch. Tzeentch is the mindfuckery.
Tzeentch is mindfuckery. Nurgle is the...
Nurgle's Plague.
Plague, that's right.
Khorne is the Blood God,
See,
and Slaanesh is the Prince of Pleasure.
Khorne and Slaanesh are the two easy ones for me to remember. The other two I get mixed up sometimes. Because
Tzeentch doesn't come up a lot.
I remember Blood for the Blood God, Skull for the Skull. That's
It's
the
easy.
reason.
And then Slaanesh is the big, sexy snake woman.
Yeah, and see that's where I can remember that one. Okay, yeah, it's the sexy one. Great. Okay. And the other two are like, well, what are you two doing? I don't know.
Tzeentch is a bird that fucks with psychers, and then Nurgle's is Papa Nurgle. He gives his plague gifts to everyone.
Oh, he's the big guy.
He's the big guy with the cauldron.
Yeah, he's got himself a cauldron. I don't know why, but I imagine him as like an old grandpa Cajun guy.
He is called Grandfather Nurgle.
It reminds me of that. It very went down in the bayou in my mind. Which I don't think is great, because I'm sorry anybody that lives down in the bayou. That may be insulting to you. If it is, apologies. I blame popular media for that.
That's fair.
So, Space Marine 3, coming at some point.
Eventually. Down the line.
Alright, so, I thought about this, and I kind of came up with a good topic for today, for our deeper discussion. That is something we kind of have danced around in certain ways, but not talked about as its own thing, and that's modules. Because we've talked about adventures, we've talked about setting books, but modules are kind of somewhere in between these things. It's sort of like, if we think about what a module by definition is, it is components that you can add together to basically say they're modular pieces. So when we talk about a modular for an RPG, it's pieces you can use. These can be in a Game Master Guide. These can be in an adventure. These can be printed on their own as actual like module books that are like give things from mechanics you can use to like adventure ideas.
I feel like what you're calling modules are called supplements, or actually supplements.
But they also are called modules sometimes too.
Modules, generally, from what I understand, are like adventure snippets specifically.
So, I know where the confusion is coming in. In olden days, everything was called a module.
Okay.
Before 4E, everything was a module.
I think they separated them out into two different things, and I'm still remembering the old days when
because
all these.
In 5e, a module now is an adventure.
It's an adventure.
And
it's not a module.
Well, so I still would call that like an adventure or a campaign book or something.
I believe they're specifically called adventure modules.
They are, yeah, you're right.
5e.
They're called adventure modules. But that's, and that actually I feel like tips into the older terminology a little bit more, because like as far as I'm aware, like adventure paths, I would I'd consider those modules as well. But I don't know. I consider something a module when it's like modular, which is
yeah.
Well,
I was saying
I don't
that like
necessarily consider those kind of like things that add rules as modules as much as supplements, which is what they're generally called now. If you like look supplementary,
I can see that to like kind of separate them out. I just thought, from my older thinking in this case, that the like supplemental rules could be modular and sent it into them, and usually you have like something like that. But if we want to stick to the, like a little bit more of the modern take on the word module, we can here, because again, like supplemental rules, you don't really need to talk about that a lot. It comes down to a lot, like module adventures. Like when I think about that, and I think about let's use 5e for example, in more modern. The only adventure that I feel like would have actually been modular out of all the ones I've actually read, and I haven't read all of them, I would say it's Curse of Strahd. That's the only one I think I would call a modular adventure, because you can do it in any order and use its pieces that it provides in any order. Something like when I was playing through the Dragon Queen adventure, it was pretty linear.
It's a linear adventure.
Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which I ended up buying because I like mega dungeons. It's pretty linear if you use it. You don't really like skip around floors,
Yeah.
So,
and I don't like where 5e has gone with modules, because 5e is actually like the idea of a module that I understood it as it kind of evolved. And from what I understand, the evolution to the term module meaning adventure, from what I remember of something I've seen or read or whatever, was more around 3.5 is when that started to happen. And then but then D&D just kind of said, oh yeah, now we have adventure modules, which are just full campaigns, which is like 1 to 12 or 1 to 15 level, or 1 to 20. And it's like, I don't like the idea of that as a module, because they're no longer modular.
So they are technically still modular, because for a majority of them, barring like Mad Mage, you can take them and slot them into an adventure. Because, like, you could do a Curse of Strahd game and then build into something beyond level 10 outside of Ravenloft. It is designed that way.
Yeah, and start before level 3 somewhere else. So
again, I think that's fine to make it still being modular, to be like a chunk of something. But I think, like, when you tell a story like Curse of Strahd, it's hard to module into something else, That is a big story. When you go from 3 to 10 and you have an epic story in Ravenloft, it kind of is hard to module into something else unless it, like, to A, match the tone, or B, like, kind of continue the story. I think that's some of the things that's kind of, like, not good in some of the modular stuff that they do now, is that they tell these bigger stories. Like, when you have the smaller, like, this is a small adventure, these is like more the local thing, that feels more modular. I guess like that, that's why I think like older adventures that were pre-rented could have been more modular, because it could be like, oh, we have to go fight Wizard Lagafarm over there and defeat him and save this local town. Okay, now what do we do next?
Mm-hmm. To me, the most modular adventures in 5e are the anthology books, because those are designed specifically for one-off adventure levels that you can slot in and start a campaign or have them end up there at some point.
I definitely agree. I think some of them are also taking on from the, like, remaking some of those older adventures too, that are classics, which were more modular. And again, like, we're talking about modular adventures here, too, which are a major part of, like, if you're doing, like, big fantasy epics or stuff like that. And certainly speaking, like, a lot of adventures will be very modular this way. But, like, I've also, like, you can get books that are basically cores of an adventure, and I feel like that's another type of, like, module adventure thing you can have. Like, it's like, here's the idea, the setup, the basics of it, but you're going to have to build it yourself. It's a chunk of the piece. So we do have modules that are going to be, pieces of an adventure you still have to build upon. But again, like, you're right, we can have a bigger campaign with these smaller, more modular adventures. And some of them are better written like that. I do think, when they're in those anthology books, they are written more to be able to do that. And not all one-shots or adventure books are written in such a way to do that, is the other thing, too. You, as a person running the game, can make them more modular, but that's like you maybe adding in some extra stuff with writing, or doing something with your players, or something like that. More than that way it is written. I guess, like, the newer Pathfinder Adventure Paths are meant to be a little bit more modular, because they're, like, 3 books instead of 6 books, so you can kind of play something else off of them sometimes.
Yes, so the idea is, depends. But yeah, for some of them, they have, like, 3 books, which are levels 1 to 10, and then the rest are level, 11 to 20, or sometimes 1 to 12, and then 13 to 20. So yeah, they're meant to be a little bit more modular. They're experimenting a bit. They do still have some that are 1 to 20. But they also have, I want to say the Ghost one was like a little odd because it was 4 books. So the Season of Ghosts, I feel like that had odder levels.
Is so weird, but it's not modular. I can say Season of Ghosts is not modular because I read up on it and learned more about it. It takes place 100 years before the current timeline in Pathfinder. It's the only adventure that takes place in the past.
Interesting. I actually didn't know that. I didn't know it was a past thing.
Yeah, because in modern day of Pathfinder in TNZ, that town's a ghost town. Like, something happens in the adventure, and at the end of the adventure, or soon after the end of the adventure, the town is either like everybody's dead or evacuated. And the place is just a ghost town in modern day TNZ. So it's this really weird town that, like, yes, if you ever run the adventure, the adventure leads into, you figure out, like, you'll know what happens at the end. Well, I don't know if the adventure deals with what happens at the end of the town, or it sets up what it is by the end of the adventure, what's going to happen. It might be that, like, again, it could be something like we stopped Big Bad, but his, like, horrible curse we could not stop, or something like that, Stuff like that can happen in adventures.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that it wasn't a modular one, because I knew they were experimenting a bit with it. But yeah, I didn't know it was a time thing. Yeah.
It definitely, it being like it's set in the past, and it's only in this one place, so it doesn't really matter to the bigger picture of Galarian. That's why they can do that, and it's interesting, but it is, yes, very experimental and non-modular. Season of Ghosts was cool to learn. I didn't know about it, but when I did my video on Shenmue, the country it's set in, I learned all about it, because that's where the thing is. It's right before the Jorogumo, the horrible spider women, take over that nation. And basically, it's doing great nowadays!
Yeah.
Visit Rustic Shenmue. Be murdered by horrible shape-shifting spider women. Anyway, I think there's, like, the word modular, as it was in old days, is definitely very different, as you said, than nowadays. Even nowadays, I think it's not used well. When it comes to something like, as you said, like, I don't think it's used well when we talk about the the adventure modules, the way that 5e works. But we do see still plenty of modular adventure-based stuff around. So I think that defining it as something that's a useful tool to you as someone running a game is good. I think the reason I wanted to talk about this on its own, because this is like kind of like something I can slot in to either help me with an adventure in between, or maybe like, continuing a campaign somewhere. It's useful, and it's not just the full adventure, like what I was thinking, like we were talking about. It could be just like adventure ideas that you slot in. I think with a lot of Kickstarters we've seen, some of them were more like along the lines of, here's a lot of like, I think some of the more universal RPG books that I've seen over the years have been adventure basic information, which is kind of like, here's a suggestion on what kind of adventure it's going to be, what kind of setting it could be, things like that. That you still have to put it together in the system you're running, but this is very, like plug and play. Like, here's like a simple idea for like a ghost story I want to do, and we want to do a ghost story in the middle here. Plug that into my adventure. It's going to be my version of it then, because I'm building on it, but it's giving me like it's inspiration in that case, which I think those are pretty good.
Yeah. You know who actually makes a lot of good like actual modules in the way that it's defined nowadays? Kobold Press. They actually do a lot of like short adventures that are like level 1 to 5 or 7 to 10 or
things that you can like kind of press into bigger adventures.
Yeah.
Like really good like modular adventures as a definition I think is good too.
I figured that out literally by looking on DriveThru RPG and looking for modules, and I found they come up a lot.
I guess they're the better one in this case.
They just put out a lot, which is good, because you want a lot for modules. You want to be able to find the one that you want to run.
I think it's also one of those ones that, certainly speaking, different games are better at modules than others. Like, I do know both Shadowrun and World of Darkness do module things, but they are really just the core of adventures a lot of times. Now, yes, you can actually get some Shadowrun adventures, but like when you're like looking at some of their other books, they're like, here's a bunch of adventure hooks, kind of almost. Same with like World of Darkness. There's a couple books that are like, here's like some vampire adventure hooks. Somehow.
Yeah, it's hard to do because a lot of games have moved away from the sort of adventure of the week style of module adventures.
Yeah,
and then it's I get why, because a lot more tabletop is bigger, longer narratives now.
Yeah,
which is completely fine, and honestly, for the most part, possibly for the better.
I actually disagree with that. And I actually would argue that Tantus is a very prime target for this, or very, very prime example of this. And that is the burnout that comes from really long adventures. Very few people make it through those long adventures. And even Tantus is like, by book 5 of Crimson Queen, he was all like, I just want to finish this.
Well, that's mostly Pathfinder's fault.
I think it's
how they do 1E adventures, because 1E adventures are quite long.
They are, but I feel like though, those long form adventures are still very problematic.
Whereas D&D tends to go for shorter adventures in that style. I don't think there's many that are above 10 levels of content.
Yeah, I think
that's still a lot.
You would think, but not necessarily, because you can get through those books pretty fast.
I think one of those things that I'm thinking about with this is long-term campaigns are like, they're really kind of like their own beast in a lot of ways. Yeah, a good long-term campaign book that like goes to a lot of levels is probably, still pretty decent. A 3 adventure pass for Pathfinder, stuff like that. But again, like, when I think about some of my longer-term campaigns that were more personally written by me, then, yeah, I kind of agree with both of you. I think it was, it was just a long game, but also, yeah, no, it was a lot of the shit in Pathfinder. It was combined those two things together for me.
Pathfinder adventures are incredibly frustrating with how they're written.
I was just kind of really frustrated that.
I would agree with that as well. I would agree that did not help.
It did.
Especially because it's just all game design, really. It doesn't have that Crimson Throne as a 3.5 adventure as well. From my experience, when I've run modules, those D&D modules, I've pretty much never finished them. I except for one, I have never finished them. And that one was Curse of Strahd, which in my opinion was actually one of the shorter ones.
I did finish
Curse of Strahd can be
shorter.
quite long though as well, depending on the order you do things in.
I got to the end of Curse of Strahd, and right before we were about to finish it, some things happened, and we lost. We went down to 2 players. So with the game we were doing, we basically did, like, rather than roll out, we did narration kind of ending. So we at least ended it. But we kind of, like, cheesed it, just because, so we could finish it.
Curse of Strahd is probably the most unique adventure due to its random nature and openness.
It is a very modular adventure, which I don't mind necessarily, because you can go to any of the places in any order or not explore some of them, stuff like that. I liked that a lot for that adventure. I don't think we see a lot of adventures like that nowadays that are like very jumbled.
It's harder to write those kind of adventures versus a linear one.
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with level, especially those level based systems. The problem is writing for those in a level 1 to 20 system means that they either have to be either really difficult when you're low level and, well, between medium to really between, properly leveled and really easy when you're higher level, or you basically have to have a modular system where different things have different levels depending on when the players get there. Which, and that's why I feel like those are very rarely done well in, things like D&D and Pathfinder.
Yeah. Those ones are very hard level, so it's harder to get those adventures.
Yeah. But if you, had something like that in Traveler or, what's a fantasy one I'm thinking of? I know what I'm thinking of. It's, RuneQuest, right? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, like those ones which are a lot softer in the way you level, you could probably do something like that a lot easier in those.
I guess because I do have experience with things. I mention them because I'm experienced with them for softer leveling systems for something like a Shadowrun or World of Darkness, where you're spending experience on places. Those are better for these kind of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you don't actually see a lot of major writing like that. I don't think I've actually really seen a World of Darkness adventure. I don't know if they're planning one in 5e, World of Darkness. I haven't seen it, but for all the older editions, I never saw a full adventure book. And in Shadowrun, I have seen some more modern.
I know there are campaign modules for World of Darkness, but I don't think they're particularly long.
Yeah.
Because they're all from the time where you would get it from a magazine.
I know. I think I've talked about it in other places, but I do want to get back to and rerun the in Shadowrun, at least the Dawn of Artifacts series of book adventures, because that was a kind of interesting one. I started funding the first one, and then the game fell apart for reasons. I'm not gonna lie, my Shadowrun games were always cursed until now. Maybe if I run it online, it'll be less cursed, and I can actually run it.
Shadowrun is a game that
setting is better than the system.
I have a lot of problems with Shadowrun. I would rather play Cyberpunk over Shadowrun.
I think their system's a little better because it deals with a lot less of the bullshit of Shadowrun. System-wise. Again, I do prefer the setting of Shadowrun.
Cyberpunk is also one of those systems that's very good for modular game stories. Just the whole core of Cyberpunk is you're doing jobs for some guy or some corp.
Same with Shadowrun. That's why those two. Well, those are cut in the same cloth.
They're basically they're very similar in gameplay.
Yeah. Again, mechanically, when you get down to it, they are different. But the idea is they came out around the same time and have some similarities between the two.
But it's hard to do because D&D hasn't done these shorter adventures since 3E, because 3.5 onward has always been long form adventures for what they publish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, though, I mean, will they stick to it? Probably not. They didn't mention they were looking into doing shorter things at one point recently.
This makes me think of when more modular things are done wrong. Carrion Craft. because it's a series of adventures that are supposed to be interconnected, but they're very disjointed from each other. But the thing is, like, we've talked about how it could be made to work over and over again. But I think that's the thing is, they were meant to be modular, or like, maybe not modular, but maybe like to be connected together, almost like modular adventures.
Because it's Carrion Crown. The best way I've heard Carrion Crown talked about is it's kind of the greatest hits of genre for D&D, because you get all of the classic things.
I feel like
stuffed into one adventure that narratively isn't that bad, but it's mostly the connection threads aren't very good.
I think it's one of those ones that, like, in that case, for those adventure paths, I'm like, just run individually.
Like, I could run Carrion Crown in a way it would work, because I have a lot of narrative fixes I could do to it, but that doesn't remove the Pathfinder parts of it that were really bad.
You know, it's just certain things work and certain don't. You know,
it requires some editing. Yeah,
evolution of 1E to 2.
1E is, speaking of Pathfinder, 1E is a very hard game to do as a modular because it is designed to be a long form game.
Yeah,
with also, from what I've heard, it's kind of a pain to design things from scratch. And
I think when we talk about this too, we talk about bigger campaigns. Campaigns and stories can be more modular in a lot of ways. What do I mean by that? I think we've talked about the series of adventures that you can do, or like they're again like when Carrion Crown, they're supposed to be interconnected. They aren't very well, but if they were more interconnected, then it would be a series of, like, you're doing this adventure, it just so happens to be connected to the next thing, you know, by some way. And I think that's very old school writing for a lot of adventures, for some of those adventure paths, where they're kind of connected to the next one, but they're kind of also their standalone thing on their own, to a degree. And can you mix and match them? Not easily, but you could, theoretically. Like, I could actually maybe, like, for at least for Carrion Crown, and maybe actually for, like, the Rise of Runelords, as I recall from the first couple of adventures, they were a little bit, like, disjointed to a degree. They were connected enough that they're basically, like, you've become a group of heroes, we need your help doing this thing, go do it, you know? There wasn't any, like, major plot points between them at that point in time, and there didn't really need to be for that game, because it was a very simple one. But it does mean it's another one of those ones I could cut and paste those adventures. You know, I could take, like, the third adventure deals with ogres. I could pull that out and just have those ogres attacking something, have you go adventuring. I could, you know, if you got the levels right, you could do that with other kind of adventures that are out there. You can modular adventures yourself, too. And that's something I think you can respect upon. Again, this comes back to how much work you want to put into to put these together in some kind of plot. Maybe you want to write a better plot than some of these bigger adventures have anyway. Just throw some bunch of adventures together.
I mean, yeah, that's a way to do it. Honestly, yeah, I don't think it'd be actually that hard, because basically what you're doing is you're taking the substance and just altering the plots to fit together. You know, basically instead of the king of this place wants you to do this, you do the king of that place. I feel like you could do that without too much trouble.
I have quite literally taken Harrowstone, the first book of Carrion Crown, and just run that as an opening of the D&D game. Because Harrowstone works very well as an opening. The problem is it's just not really connected very well to the next book. The conceit to get to the next book is very, very dumb.
Well, it's like also book 3 I'd split into 2. I might split
book 3 needs to be 2 books.
Book 2 maybe also 2 adventures.
Book 2 is fine. You just need to make the dungeon bigger.
Dungeon bigger and, like, make the trial a little better. Like, the concept of it's not bad, but it's like the way they do it. It's not great execution. Book 4 is just really, it's on its standalone anyway. I like book 4.
Yeah, book 4 can honestly just kind of be cut for the narrative purpose, because the reason you go to it is dumb. Like, dumb entirely reason. Stupid.
Again, I really like book 4. it just doesn't fit in the entire story. It's a side quest. You could just cut it out and or run it on its own. And again, like I feel like sometimes that's what that happens sometimes in these older 6 adventure paths. I guess that's why they split to the 3, because then they could really keep the narrative tighter and maybe make these a little bit more interconnected. I'm curious about how interconnected then, because I haven't really sat down and read through some 2nd edition adventure paths that are 3 adventures and see how interconnected they are and how much you could modular them now. Like, I'm curious as to that. I'll have to do that sometime. But, back to our original thing, because we're kind of like meandered a little bit. I think the idea here is definitely the use of all of this is, again, you could still be writing your own plot, writing your own adventures. It's either to give you core ideas, a basic part of an adventure, maybe some stats, or if you really want to, as you said, Momo, you ran Hearthstone to start a different game. You just did Hearthstone and then went into something else.
I literally just use Hearthstone, and
you could do that.
Because there's almost no details connecting it to the wider story of Carrying Crown, because the only connection is that dude who died.
Hey, you could use portions of an adventure, like back to Rise of the Warlords, the Goblin attack on Sandpoint. It's the thing that's like big there.
Yeah.
You can just run that, and then maybe even just deal with the Goblin tribe, and after that, split the adventure. You don't have to go into like the third part of that adventure and just go. You've helped and saved this town. Now you can do something else.
If I was running Skull and Shackles, I would only use the first 3 books and throw the rest in the trash.
It's hard to do that though, too, because the first book kind of sucks. So.
Well, use book 2 and 3. Book 1 is just egregiously like he hates the players, so it can go away. And then the plot in book is book 4. No, book 4 is Harrigan, right?
Book 5 is Harrigan.
What was book 4? Was that Party?
Book 4, that was Island and Party.
Okay. What the hell was book 3?
Book 3
book 2 was just you learn how to be a pirate.
Book 2 is learn how to be a pirate. Book 3 is you do some stuff to gain notoriety and then go in a race. Because the race is in 3.
You could keep book 2, 3, and 4. Throw out book 1 because it's dumb. Book 5 is fine, but it starts to fall apart after that.
I think what you could do is if you wanted to use it and kind of modulate it out, is maybe start at the back end of book 1, where you've been part of the pirate crew, but don't make Harrigan be a dick. Make the first mate be a dick. The guy you end up killing, So basically, he runs off with the one ship, gets crash landed on the one island at the beginning of 1. We can write the island a little bit so it's not as waterlogged, You can switch the monsters out. You deal with him, you have the ship now. Now you're pirates. Your problems with the captain didn't exist before. You maybe re-meet with him. He could learn about his first mate's betrayal and stuff like that when you killed him off. Whatever. You just have the problem with that guy. You were on the pirate crew, just members of it, and then you go through 2, learning to be a pirate. 3, doing on some adventures to prove yourself, and go on a race. And then 4, get an island in your pirate council. And then you can just end the adventure there. Hey, there's pirate world.
I would legitimately cut out all of the stuff with Shellyax because it literally made no sense why it was there.
It was an invasion. You got to fight a boss that you were not friends, you're frenemies with for the longest time. So now you hate him.
I was gonna say this is also mild side tangent. Hi, fun fact: when your adventure revolves around fighting dudes, hey, it's a very easy adventure. It's not hard and really that engaging because spoilers, dudes die in a single turn.
It's I could feel the difference in Crimson Queen. There were some parts of the adventure where he was fighting dudes, and then we're fighting weird super monsters, and I'm like, no, this is different. This feels very different.
It's got a different feel to it, right? Different difficulty level.
I felt like the team was adapted better for dudes, because so much of it was dudes for the first, like, 4 adventures, and they're like, well, we're not doing dudes anymore, now we're doing horrible undead. Good luck. You're totally built for this. This was all along the plot, you know?
It's... But yeah, no, you could definitely, like, hell, you could just use Book 2 if you want to run a pirate game in Pathfinder, because Book 2 is very good at setting up pirating.
You could remove any connections to the Queen and run, like, Book 2 of Crimson Queen. Just, there's a plague in the city, you know? There's a plague in the city you're part of, you're helping out the plague, turns out there's an evil cult behind it. Just keep it like
Pathfinder that. Actually genuinely works the best for modularizing adventures, because they are just separate books. Pathfinder.
Oh, Pathfinder, yeah.
Because 5e, it's a single book most of the time.
Yeah.
I think every time it's a single book. I don't think they've ever done 2 books.
Some of them are like...
technically the Dragon Queen Adventure is 2 books.
Yeah.
There's another one
that's
a couple series.
No, because even like the Yawning Portal had was just 1 book.
No, I thought there was one of the big books.
I'm looking at Mad Mage is technically 2 books because it's connected to Waterdeep.
It wasn't the one that deals with devils or demons or something.
Sent into Avernus, I know is solo. There's another one that deals with demons, but I don't remember what it's called. Prince of the Apocalypse, I think has something that comes after it, maybe? I don't know what levels that one is.
Yeah, I thought Prince of Apocalypse had another connected thing. I think that's
I don't really know. I've only played Witchlight.
But again, like, sections of books you can cut out too. Like, again, like, when we talk about hey, first part of Book 3 in Carrying Crown, you could just take that entire part out. And similarly speaking, that works, though, in any book. Like,
it's a murder mystery.
Yeah, it's just murder mystery. I could take the Strange Cursed Temple in the Golden Temple, I think it's called. Is that right? From Curse of Strahd? I could take that temple out and just have exploring there as part of an adventure. You know, you can still section out those things even more, especially if they're built separately or showing different areas, and that can work with D&D modules. But
it's hard to do for pre-written 5e stuff.
Yeah, I think post Curse of Strahd, they've been a lot more linear, a little harder to do. I feel like Curse of Strahd was the last time it was relatively decent.
You could do it for Witchlight as well, because Witchlight's also a go in whichever direction you want to go.
Yeah. And honestly, and I'm going to say this, and Tentis has disagreed with me on this before, but anytime you run anything, you're probably going to have to edit it anyway, so modules are no exception.
No, I agree with you a lot more now.
Yeah, you're going to have to edit it to your party, and your players.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot more nowadays, I understand that, because I think I was spoiled back in the day, is what I can say.
Mm-hmm.
Why was I spoiled? Because the group of players that I had, Joe and Blaze and a bunch of our friends, you know what we did? We knew each other very well. So when anybody ran a pre-made adventure, I think we just unconsciously did shit, you know?
Yeah.
We didn't think about it as much because we kind of understood each other a lot more since we'd played for like a decade together, you know? That's why, like, I recognize that more now, as that was fun, but didn't help me to learn the places you needed to edit things and stuff like that. And replaying especially carrying Crimson Queen and running Crimson Throne. That one, I felt it a lot more than even Buccaneers. Buccaneers or Skulls and Shackles as an adventure has its problems, but I didn't feel like when those problems existed, I'd particularly edit them for the team. I just edited them to get rid of like mechanical problems.
Yes, there were a lot of like not good mechanics because boat.
Because boat.
Yeah.
So comparing that to the old the Crimson Throne adventure path, yeah, that one needs a little bit more personalization in that, you know. Boat adventures are fun.
Yeah, and I mean, my big thing, and especially when you're running modules where you could have like, you know, let's say you're going to do Pathfinder ones and you like run, you know, one from the quest for the Frozen Flame, and then the next one you do, you know, the Ruby Phoenix. I don't know if those are compatible based on levels. I don't think they are. But anyway, but let's say
they are, because Ruby Phoenix is 11 to 20, and I think Frozen Flame is 1 to 10.
Yeah. Anyway, but so if you do those, you can, you're gonna have to have a story to bridge them anyway. And that's gonna be, and so you're gonna either have to edit the end or the beginning of one of them, or both, more likely, to blend them together. Why did they suddenly go over to this other location when they were previously in, the frozen north? So
yeah. I was thinking of this more, and like, I could run Harrowstone from Caring Crown and dive into the second adventure from Rise of Runelords, because I remember Harrowstone, you're dealing with a haunted prison. Haunted Abandoned Asylum is the second is that other adventure.
Yeah, you just have to... All you'd have to do to fix that is just pick up Harrowstone and chuck it into Varesia.
Yeah, Harrowstone's in Varesia, and then, like, because you have expertise with just helping with this haunted prison, someone's like, hey, we've got another problem with another haunted thing, can you help with this? Or, so it's like, they thematically can fit together then very easily. Or you could throw the asylum into somewhere in Ustalav, either or, both ways would work too, But it's sort of like things like that there are thematically sometimes adventures that can fit together really easily. Like when you just when you take a step back and look at them, like, these kind of fit together. Or places within them too, like when you're exploring old ruins or ancient places, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like if it didn't suck, I could say you could just like run Scarwall on its own, but it kind of sucks.
Scarwall is kind of bad.
It was a pretty bad dungeon. It was very fun because I've literally never been a player in a mega dungeon before. And I enjoyed it for the novelty of that, but I agree in many ways it could have been done way better.
There are better mega dungeons in Pathfinder.
Probably just use the map and like put creatures in there.
It's kind of dragged on a little too long. And also like half the map was empty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that second part, it's like half the map was empty, and there was so much story to tell of the place, but they could have put aspects of that story into those empty places.
How about this? Take the map, make it low level, and you know what you can do? You know what's easier to do in any kind of most role-playing games? Smaller, low-level adventures rather than high. Like when you're at higher level, having a lot of battles, a lot harder to do. Because those tend to be
They take so long,
and they tend to use a lot bigger resources. While smaller battles against, like, there's some zombies over here, or some skeletons over here, there are less, you can still possibly use resources, but it's usually less likely to use resources. So make just a low-level version of it, and probably put more stuff in more places.
I mean, especially given that it was undead, which is notoriously terrible in Pathfinder 1E for high level.
Low-level undead!
Not only was it undead, the dungeon had mechanics for making it harder to be a cleric, which is a class specifically built for killing undead.
Mm-hmm. But also, if you didn't have people who were like able to do those roles, it would be even harder.
Yep.
And nearly impossible. Like if you didn't have like a traditional cleric, despite the fact that they were, so it's like you're punishing, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're punished for having a cleric, but cleric is.
You don't understand. Lightning's cleric was the one built for this dungeon.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because they specifically have the ability to overcome a bunch of the bonuses the undead were getting to channel it. The amount of bonuses they were getting in this place were insane otherwise. Because it's like this like super unhallowed place. And I'm like, there's just so much shit in here that I'm like, it was so overwhelming, the amount of like, they just wanted to kick you in the crotch with it.
There was like a lot of that in that game, in that module. There's a lot of like, we've built this because we don't like players, and we're gonna make it unnecessarily hard.
So did the person right go hang out with like Gary Gygax and learn about the Tomb of Annihilation before this?
I mean, possibly. To be fair, it's also written for 3.5. It's quite old. It is quite an old adventure.
That's true. It is 3. I think that was the last one that was 3.5.
No, Legacy of Fire was the last one.
Okay, Legacy of Fire was the last one. I couldn't remember if it was that one. So like the first 3 adventures were still 3.5.
There's like 4 Pathfinder adventures that are 3.5. I only know. Was Rune Lords 3.5 originally?
Rise was the first one. So
Yeah,
Rise
so
was
I thought.
the.
I don't know what the other last one is. I never heard of it. I could literally pull up a list, but I don't want to.
Yeah, it was the Legacy of Fire was the second one. I think it was it Thief or Council of Thieves or something?
No, Council of Thieves is proper Pathfinder. I know that because I played in a Council of Thieves game.
It's pretty early on in there that I feel like. I definitely would want to like actually like addressing this topic. I'm actually more interested in like maybe thinking about like doing this. It's
Chat, you want my hot take on
Second
Pathfinder
Darkness.
Do you want my hot take on Pathfinder 1E Adventures? Chat. And anyone listening. The later the adventure came out, the better written it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
The better written and better mechanically it is. Literally, like, the first 5 or 6 adventures are terrible. Terrible mechanically. Kingmaker is okay, but that's because Kingmaker has been remastered so many times.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, like, there's a lot of really cool ideas and interesting adventure things, but it's just, like, also, just like most things, as they went on. But yeah, it was Rise of the Lords, Curse of Crimson Throne, Second Darkness, and Legacy of Fire. Second Darkness is the one that technically doesn't exist anymore.
Oh yeah, they, like, nuked this one. It's Drow stuff. Which
it's all Drow stuff.
Canon
and so
anymore.
Yes, which aren't canon anymore. So... They're like, it was totally illusions from these other people. So if things happened, but it was a trickery by this other group, don't worry about it. The nuking of canon. They do their best to actually like, address that at very least. I think that's the one thing I like when they nuke canon in Pathfinder. Like, we technically addressed them a little bit. Don't worry about it. Look at this hand over here.
Just play Iron Gods and don't be a coward.
Don't you still want to fight a
Go fight a robot. Go fight a sentient AI.
That lets it become a god. I think it does at the end or something.
I'm pretty sure it does, and you kill it.
Oh no, you kill the one, and you hit another AI to help you, which then becomes also a god.
Yep.
Because of the divine power, and it becomes like a benevolent AI god, which is weird, and I'm like, oh god, just thank you for this, Pathfinder. Anyway,
Yep.
I probably do think, like, when we're looking at these older adventures are probably a lot more modular than the later ones. At least when it comes to the entire adventure.
Yeah, the older
the
adventure, the early adventures can definitely be pulled apart. But like something like Hell's Rebels, War for the Crown, and Tyrant's Grasp are really not modular at all. They are a one and done package.
Yeah, like I think if you wanted to use portions of them, that's the best way nowadays. Like, there's an encounter in this dungeon. You just rip that dungeon out and, like, play it on its own with a different storyline. That's probably the easiest way if you want to use some of these things now. Like, if you have these adventures, certainly speaking, you can probably go to, Time's Last Grasp, and there's, like, some kind of, like, dungeon-y based thing. Pull the dungeon out, just run the dungeon with different plot, something like that. You could probably just do that. You would just have to make an entire plot around the dungeon and all the reason behind it, because they're it's part of this entire adventure. So, but you can do that. You needed, like, a map or something. And again, as we said with, like, the Crimson Throne adventure pack, you could take something like Scarwall and just do the monsters too. It's just another part about this entire thing that I think is modular gameplay is really good to have. And, like, having these adventures is a great resource because, like, here's a village, here's some NPCs, here's this thing here. And they become pieces in these adventures you can pull out and build something new with too if you want to also. It is, shortcuts. And I think really good modular stuff can be used as shortcuts, that help you out. Rely on them sometimes. Hey, run an adventure. But you don't need to. You can just take some stuff too. Right? It's extra NPCs that are available, or you can be inspired by one of them to make a similar NPC, or there's a dungeon here that I've got a map for. hey, I don't have to go online and look up a dungeon map or make my own. Making dungeon maps can be annoying sometimes.
Yeah.
Depending on the time you have. There's a lot of time for it.
That's true.
I've liked making dungeon maps before. I've also liked being able to like look at. What is it? What's the dungeon map generator? Is that Donjon?
There's a couple of them.
Donjon's one of the random generator. Then you've got yeah.
I used Donjon for Records of Evil, and it was funny, but it wasn't great. So I had to change a lot in that one, but at least it gave me a map.
So so depending on, I mean, if we're gonna go into, do you want me to go into maps? I can go into maps.
Maybe we'll save maps for a little bit for a later
Do
time.
a whole other topic on maps.
Yeah.
I have tried so many map things, and I actually have settled on some things that I really like. If you're gonna look for mapping assets, I recommend Gabriel Picard. He's got probably the biggest library, and he's got just he's got so much good stuff, and it's really good art. Also, Sezenpeku, yeah. Hold on. CZENPEKU.
There are a lot of sources for maps online, but
which just do full maps. So those are like full battle maps.
So like, you can find some that you don't have to do it. But again, like, it also is like, it is not also terrible if you wanted to use a map from an adventure because it's a really cool map to use it. And either use the details of the map or rewrite it. You know, you can use any map source. You can use some great ones online, you can make your own, or you can use stuff that you have from adventures. Like, I could technically take a level of Mountain of the Mad Mage, onto Undermountain.
Yep, the Undermountain.
I could take one of those levels and just make that a dungeon and have it on its own. I could use the stuff from it. I could rewrite some of the stuff in there. But hey, you could probably play one of those levels just as a thing. Granted, certain ones you have to like change some things with, and certain mechanics that they work for some of these dungeon levels. Like, I'd say you could do that with something like for other mega dungeons, like the Emerald Spire in Pathfinder. But for that, you'd also have to, like, you know, pull out a giant Emerald Spire from the middle of it, you know, or like replace it with just a giant stone column or something, and remove some mechanics there. But you could just have a dungeon that way. It's a small dungeon, but you could. Those were much smaller levels than that. They were reasonable.
Yeah.
Anyway, again, so there's a lot of these things that you can just pull out, and like also like, you know, hey, when you're talking about NPCs, you can just steal a villain too or something like that.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
Whether it's your main villain now or like just another like a side villain or worker for the main one. There are a lot of really cool characters out there that you can find in places, and you know, it helps you with one stats if you possibly need them, or just like a lot of times these books, they provide really good characterizations for a lot of these characters and make them, you know, interesting and useful. There are things you don't need to do, but there are also things you do. So, okay. Any other things? I think that we've handled a lot here at the modular idea.
I don't got a whole lot left to talk about.
RPG modules in general. On the adventure side of things, I guess. So maybe I'll do another like supplements and supplemental mechanics. And I've got map making, finding sources as things. Man, I'm just putting some more. Every time I can put some more topics on our list, let me like do one of these, and I get some more topics. So it's wonderful. I have grabbed a few of the old ones. There are some other ones on here that I don't know if they'd be good to address anymore. Not like the bad address, it would be difficult. One day, maybe. Either of you got anything else to add on this topic, or kind of like?
I don't know. I need to run modules. In fact, I actually think I'm gonna. That might be a good gateway into me, because I've been having a lot of hard time lately, just with work. Planning for, like, I want to plan adventures, but I just haven't had the time because work has been crazy and I don't have time after work because I stream. So yeah, maybe I'll consider that. Maybe I'll start running some modules. Maybe that's how I'll get my GMing fix.
Yeah, because I think it's the thing is when you run it modular, you are still writing stuff on your own. You're just taking portions that you want and
it's editing instead of full-on
Mhm.
creation, which is easier.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Sometimes it's definitely easier just to do a little bit of edits than to do full creation. So time, especially with the time you need. I think we saw a bunch of that with Joe when he's been doing his adventure. He was a lot of time before too.
Mm-hmm. He could be better at it, but he's still.
Look, sometimes he doesn't edit enough. I'll put it that way. Sometimes he doesn't edit enough.
That reminds me, I need to finish. I need to up level my character. Level up my character. That's the word I got to up. I was trying to figure out the word level up, and I got to up level.
I think I leveled. I'm gonna check my character. I don't remember if I finished leveling or level. I'll look it up. Anyway, shall we talk about our week in tabletop then? Did anybody do anything last Sunday?
No.
I did not.
How about Monday?
Monday I did things.
Oops.
With River's game on Mondays, we were down a player, so we did a literal beach episode where we went to the beach and had to fight some merfolk because they're assholes. And they wanted the beach to themselves, but they belong in the ocean, not on land. That's what I say. It's their own fault that they got beat up. Yeah, it was basically a side adventure that had no real, narrative meaning to it.
Interesting.
Next session, we're going to dungeon.
Okay. How about on Tuesday? Anything on Tuesday?
I also had a thing on Tuesday.
Ooh.
We started Lightning's new game, where we're all horrifically trapped on a world taken over by demons. And forced into demon society, which sucks. It's not cool. Basically, if you've ever played Half-Life 2, we're basically in City 17, but instead of aliens, it's run by demons. So we all met up in our cool... We all had various reasons. Someone gave us all keys to an apartment, which is weird. So we all met up there and discussed who the hell we are, and then we're gonna probably go and kill some things later. And do crime. Mostly crime. Lots of crime, I imagine.
Lots of crime. Sometimes you just need crime. There's a lot of adventure to do. Anyway, sneak. I didn't have a full game on Wednesday, but we did have a meeting finalizing some things. There's a message I put in chat. I remember to do it. I'll do it this afternoon. So I can make sure to set up with food. But yeah. So yeah, no, we're kind of establishing stuff for next Wednesday. I hope everybody can join us for that. I will probably remember to put out a big announcement on it tomorrow, Monday, a few days ago.
If I remember, I will remind you.
Thank you. I forget so many things. I also get distracted by stuff. Some of which is life stuff, which is unfortunate.
Ooh, life.
Yes.
So I don't forget, but I may forget it in a relevant time period. Then I'll remember afterwards, and I'll be like, "Dang it!"
Mm-hmm. So, all right. That's about everything there on Wednesday. Unless anybody else did anything on Wednesday.
No.
How about Thursday?
No.
No, I didn't do anything Thursday.
Friday?
Nope.
What did you do your Saturday game earlier today?
Yeah, I did. So we're going to explore a dark, evil forest. Oh gosh. there was a whole thing about, so it's so funny. Okay, the one downside to having 8 players is how long it takes to decide to do anything as a group.
I can see that as a problem.
Everyone has a suggestion, and then everyone has to go through their suggestion, and then like basically the GM just goes, "Okay, let's put it to a vote." So it's just like, are we going by foot or are we going to rent horses? And everyone's like, foot. I'm like, okay, cool. And then we go to the next town. And then there it's like, okay, how are we getting across the lake? Okay, boats, walking around. Are we going across the... settle on boats. Are we going straight across the river or are we skirting the edge? We skirted the edge. Yeah. And then we got attacked by... oh, and then, so it was a dark evil forest, and someone just tried to do a... test out some magic, some druidic druid tried to test out some druidic magic, and ended up summoning a swarm of biting insects towards us because his spell backfired, because this place isn't kind to druids. It's a twisted evil forest.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And then we got attacked by spiders, and then we got attacked, and then we went back on the road after resting for the night, and got attacked by a giant catfish, which we, after we killed, we cut up and turned into rations.
Okay.
And then we went further down the road and ran into rapids, which we decided to pick up our boats and walk past. We're in like canoes, so we have 3 canoes for our party of like 8. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
A lot of stuff happened.
I mean, yeah, it was. You may think so, but it's like the fact that we like really didn't go very far. We did have like 2 encounters, but also it's all like, man, there was just so much just deciding. It is funny just how hard it is to get anything done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely more players than I've done in the game. I've done I think like 6. Even part of the. I think I was part of a 7-player game once, but like it was. I remember the game it wasn't like it was just set up in a way to make it easier for the players. It wasn't like a traditional like fantasy thing.
Sorry, I just realized it's 7 players. I was thinking of the DM when I was counting players.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just as a challenge for them. So it sounds like it was a pretty eventful week for all of us. Probably more eventful, actually.
I mean, I had to go to the DMV twice this week. That's a whole story. Go on YouTube. Well, when it's up, I haven't uploaded it yet, obviously. But when I upload the Friendly Fire Friday thing, you can hear that story.
I both like your name more, but also like it's just a crazy name for it.
I mean, sorry, I just realized I'm calling it Friendly Fire Day.
Yeah, I just have Friday with friends. You know,
yeah.
I kept it simple, but I do like yours more, but it is very crazy. Your time for friends. That game has less friendly fire. So.
It does.
I'm sure we'll be back to one that has more friendly fire eventually. Alright. So, yeah. I guess that's it for today. I guess we can have some shoutouts and, where to find us, all that kind of stuff. So, Momo, do you have any kind of shoutouts?
No, I exist nowhere.
That happens. It's like existing nowhere, but sometimes everywhere. You're there, but not there.
Do not perceive me.
Mm-hmm. Worm! I'm sure you have some things anyways.
Yeah, I'm DiamondWyrm. You can find me on twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm or at DiamondWyrm on Twitter and Blue Sky. And you can search DiamondWyrm on YouTube to find me as well, but it's also not really easy to get to me otherwise because of the long, weird URL stuff. Hate it. Go and subscribe to me on YouTube so that way I can actually get to a point where I don't have to have like this really crazy long URL. Yep, I'll be streaming tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. PDT. That's good for now.
Very, very cool. Nice. Myself, 10th Narrative Dracovin. I'll be back on Tuesday. If you missed it, we're almost done Dave the Diver. I'm gonna finish up the main story, which is probably going to be next on Tuesday. And I was gonna do one more day just to finish up one of the events, and then call it there, at least until more of the DLC come out. And so we've got that coming up. If you missed, we did finish up. I finished up Elden Ring.
Woo!
I finally beat the DLC boss. I didn't have to respec, which I'm happy because I built a really terrible build throughout the game. And I didn't have to respec, so I beat it with my bad build. Thumbs up. It was a bitch. And I do want to finally get to, at some point next week maybe, I got installed the MTG Forge Adventures. I want to try that out. Which is basically, if you know about it, it's the old Chandelar game. Someone made like a new version of it with better graphics and a lot of cards modeled. Was it in one of the other servers on with you, Momo? Like Jay was talking about that or something.
Probably.
He was the one that originally talked about it, and I heard someone mention it again. Then I still was past like a couple of weeks, so I actually finally installed it. I want to try it. That's where I originally got kind of like the hint of it. Seems like fun. And I've been hankering for like deck building, and this is probably an easy way to do it. Magic itch exists within me, but I also like it's hard to play real Magic and or deal with real Magic shit nowadays.
Yeah.
So, alright. So that's kind of it. And check out some of the gaming topics for Tabletop that are going to be this week. Fall of Avonswell should be starting out on Wednesday. Unless something major happens in the meantime, we're on schedule for it. So expect that to be starting soon. And, hope everybody's going to have a great rest of your week, a great rest of your weekend, and check out people, and, hopefully, I should be back next week, same time, same place here. We'll see, hopefully Worm and Indoor Momo can join me there. And, thank you to you two for joining me today, and, I think that's all the shout-outs. Check out my stuff, YouTube, social media, Twitch if you're over on YouTube, all that good stuff. My links are in below. Alright, everybody. Have a great day, rest of your weekend, etc., etc., and I'm going to say bye for now. Farewell!